If this is the kind of thing they're forcing on us now, fuck it, let it burn.
She's not a robot, Annie. She's a little girl. With little girl emotions, which are wildly unpredictable.
Charlie?
She just has to shove it down and keep it hidden.
Our responsibility is getting her ready.
Our responsibility is to protect her.
Charlie?
If they catch her, they're gonna put her in a cage.
Charlie?
They're gonna run tests on her for the rest of her life. We'll never see her again.
If who catches me?
First things first. Nobody cares about this film, so I'm going to spoil the shit out of it. Secondly, whose ever idea was the scene with the cat? Fuck you! I'm a big Stephen King fan from way back. Admittedly, more of his pre-car accident work, all of which I've read at least once thanks to my horror reading phase back in my 20s. So I completely understand the fact that King's books are quite often difficult to translate to the screen. Most of the character stuff in his novels is cerebral and emotional, which doesn't always work in a visual medium. Also, his books are long, really long. I tried reading the extended edition of The Stand back in the 90s and that broke me a little bit. Maybe that's why the best translations of King's works are either based on his short stories, like Stand By Me and The Shawshank Redemption, or films where they deviate from the source material a lot, like in The Shining. That said, there have been some great book-to-screen adaptations of his work over the years. One of my favourites is John Carpenter's Christine, which I was shocked to see just how much of the story made it into the film when I reread the book just recently. One big issue of some of his works is that there wasn't the technology, or sometimes the budget, to realise some of the grander aspects to his stories, especially during that period in the 90s when they were doing a bunch of made-for-TV adaptations. Yeah, it worked out pretty well, and Nightflyer was reasonable, but did you ever see The Langoliers? My old Super NES had better graphics. So I will admit to being excited whenever they announce a new big-budget adaptation of one of King's classic stories, hoping they will do a better or at least more faithful translation of the material. But the big problem with being an optimist is that you tend to get let down a lot. It Chapter 1 was really good. It Chapter 2 suffered from the fact that there isn't an adult story to tell. I never saw the Pet Sematary remake, just wasn't ever in the mood for it. Dr. Sleep hasn't made it onto my watch list yet, and I don't care about The Dark Tower. And I had completely forgotten that not only had they done a remake of Carrie, but I had seen it, which shows you how much of an impact that made. So far, they've kind of been dropping the ball a bit when it comes to new Stephen King films. And then there's this fucking thing. Jesus fucking Christ. I am genuinely angry that this movie exists. I don't know whether to blame the writer or the director for this, but they both should be bitch slapped into oblivion for it. As the story goes, Charlie is a little girl who is born with the ability to light fires with her mind. Pyrokinetic is what they call it in the comics. Her parents were experimented on, they got psychic powers, they had the kid can burn shit. Some shady organisation wants the kid back for study. There's a bad guy, shit happens. That's this movie, not the book. The book was good, from what I can remember. Admittedly, it's been over 20 years since I read it. The writer on this film was a guy named Scott Teems, who also wrote the recent Halloween Kills, which I wasn't really that much of a fan of, but I at least understood what they were trying to achieve with Halloween Kills. This, it felt like they just read the dust jacket of the book and watched half the trailer from the '84 movie to write this story. It's got the basic concept of the novel, but it just erases anything of meaning and then tries to do some combination of an 80s era Death Wish sequel and a Marvel origin movie. The movie is only 90 minutes long, but I swear the first half hour is pointless. The middle just sort of meanders, and then the end is a really stupid attempt at an action set piece, transforming this quite sweet little girl into a mini Charles Bronson, complete with stupid quips when she kills somebody. The film was directed by a guy called Keith Thomas. His IMDb lists only 3 other projects before this. One's a short, and one's a music video. So I really can't tell if he was completely incompetent, full of his own self-worth, or just was trying way too hard. But so many of the shots and the framing in this film just reeked of I went to film school pretentiousness. I really would like to know who owed him a favour that got him the gig on this. Our lead character is played by Zac Efron, who is playing a bad dad. Like parents from Frozen, Jonathan Kent in Man of Steel, and those shitty parents from X-Men 2 type bad. Zac still looks like a 14-year-old kid with a fake ID trying to buy beer. It doesn't matter how much stubble he grows, he still looks like he's pretending to be an adult. His character is so bad, he's practically the antagonist. Some of the lessons he tries to teach young Charlie, and then what he does in the final act, are just so head-shakingly stupid. You honestly wonder if the writer has ever interacted with a parent before. Kurtwood Smith is completely fucking wasted, playing a character from the book they felt needed to be shoehorned in. Gloria Rubin plays Captain Hollister, the leader of said shady agency. I think she was using this film to try and audition for James Gunn's next Suicide Squad sequel. Her performance was so cartoony. I was expecting Bugs Bunny to show up and tell her to tone it down a little bit. Sydney Lemon plays Charlie's mother and maybe the only rational voice in the film. So, of course, she gets fridged as quickly as possible. The one positive thing you can say about the casting of this film is that they got Native American actor Michael Greyeyes to play Native American character Rainbird. This character was played by George C. Scott in the original of all people. But what winds up happening in the end of this film between him and the little girl makes no goddamn sense, other than setting up a potential sequel, which is never going to happen. The film was produced by Blumhouse, which has made a pretty decent name as a high-quality but low-budget producer of horror films. They've had some great stuff come out over the years. Yeah, not everything they touch has been a smash hit, but their average is pretty good. So either they weren't paying any attention to this one, or they didn't give a shit about it. Either way, they should be goddamn ashamed that they now have this as part of their library. You know, the last time they were making movies this bad based on Stephen King's works, the man himself got absolutely ripped to the tits on cocaine and went out and directed Maximum Overdrive. After seeing this piece of garbage, you'd completely forgive him for receiving packages from Uncle Escobar again. This isn't a movie, it's a goddamn insult. It's an insult to Stephen King, who actually put work and effort in creating the story in the first place. It's an insult to King fans who are hoping to see a high-quality retelling of his work, and it's an insult to cinemagoers. The filmmakers actually expected people to give them money for this. They were expecting patrons to fork over their cash and their time, and they deliver this? It's the epitome of lazy filmmaking. It's lazy writing, it's lazy directing, it's doing nothing but cashing in on the reputation of a far superior creator, and it's garbage like this is why audiences don't trust movies anymore. This kind of thing just...